Let's start.
All right, let's start. Okay, so as I said, today we are going to talk about, can everyone see my screen now? How to use Zoom for remote teaching?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so this is going to be an overview of how to use Zoom for remote teaching. The tutorials are going to be in that link that I sent everybody, and I can send that again over chat at the end of the session. But I will mention again that this is being recorded. And just keep that in mind. So I'm going to make it available to everyone after the session. Okay. So let me make sure that I was just making sure that I was recording. So let me sort of talk about what Zoom is. It is our live video conferencing solution, and it can do things like handle lectures with up to 300 participants. It's great for small seminars if there's lots of back and forth conversation. And depending on the view that you have, you might see this whole kind of extended Brady Bunch video of everyone. You can minimize that so you can see my screen. But when I'm not sharing the screen, then you'll see that there's all these different options of how you can talk to people, and it makes it very immediate. In some ways, it can be nicer than doing a class session because students are looking at each other and not the backs of each other's heads. It's great for student group work. So, you might want to keep that in mind, that you can create breakout rooms within your class so students can work in groups during class, or they can get together independently outside of class to do some projects. So keep that in mind. It's great for virtual office hours. One of the things that you can do in a Zoom session is you can allow a waiting room in Zoom so that a student won't jump into your session as you're talking to another student. And it'll just appear there for you, say, okay, such and such student is waiting. And then once you accept them in, then they can come into the session and the other student can leave. And you use the same thing for one-on-one consultations and, of course, for hands-on workshops. So Zoom's got lots of functionality. So today, I'm going to cover 8 basic parts of Zoom. I'm going to teach you about the Zoom environment. And there are 2 Zoom environments that I want you to be aware of. One is going to be the website, which is basically your dashboard. That's how you're going to keep track of your meetings and your recordings and things like that. And the other part is going to be the actual Zoom video conferencing environment. I'm going to show you how you create a Zoom meeting, how you would invite participants to that meeting, how you'd share your screen like I'm doing now, then how you can annotate on your screen. If you wanted to use a whiteboard or if you wanted to actually annotate on a PowerPoint, you could do that. And then I'm going to show you very briefly how to record your meeting, use the Zoom chat feature, which that can be complicated, and I don't recommend you use the chat feature if you're going solo on a Zoom course. I recommend that if you have a teaching assistant, or if you can have an assistant, a student who will be maybe the scribe or answer questions or ask questions, that could be useful. But I wouldn't try to go that route on my own. And then how to use breakout rooms. And as I mentioned before, breakout rooms are really convenient because if you've got a class, say, of 20 students and you want them to all work in groups to ask a question, it's very easy to break that up. And it's actually, once you're comfortable with Zoom, it's actually a lot easier to do that in Zoom than it is to do it in a live class. All right, so navigating the Zoom environment. Our Zoom environment is going to be found on the web at cwm.zoom.us. That's the only way that I recommend that you actually access Zoom when you're using it with your students. So once you log in, you're going to see the web dashboard, and from there, you're going to get to your video conferencing app. And I spelled video conference wrong, sorry. So I'm going to jump right into the web environment and the things that you can do in the web environment. So this is just a screenshot of the web environment. On the left-hand side, you're going to see a menu. And that's going to show you your profile. There are nice things that you can do with your profile that you'll learn about in a tutorial. It'll show you where your meetings are. And if you look down at the center here, it shows you recordings, and that's going to show you where all of your recordings that you might have recorded in the past are, and you can share those via an easy link with your students. And then you can just browse through some of the other things. But the most important part, the most important part is going to be the join meeting and host a meeting up at the top right. So let me show you a little bit about the meeting interface. So this is the actual meeting interface. There's a bottom menu that you're going to see, and you may not see it on yours because you need to kind of wiggle over the screen to see it. So you may want to wiggle over the screen, and you'll see that bottom interface when you're in a regular video conference. You may not see it now because I'm sharing my screen with you, but when you're just talking to people, if you wiggle over the screen, you should see the menu that you see down at the bottom there, right? Share, chat, breakout rooms, leaving. If you're the owner of a meeting, then you can end it. If you're not the owner of a meeting, then you can just leave the meeting. And now it tells me that my internet connection is unstable for a moment. Okay, so on to the next thing. Creating a Zoom meeting. From the web dashboard, you're going to just click on host a meeting to host a meeting. Okay, and that's that will actually, if you have installed the software, which it looks like everyone's installed the software because you're all looking at me and watching the tutorial. But if you've installed the software and you click host a meeting, it will take you immediately into your meeting room, and then you can host a meeting. If you have the Zoom application and you want to host a meeting from there, that's also possible. You can just click on new meeting. But I suggest, again, that you just familiarize yourself with the web dashboard and don't bother with the Zoom application. So next step, inviting participants to your meeting. First of all, are there any questions about creating a meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can we do this from within Blackboard as well? Because I created a link inside of Blackboard when I was fooling around with this before we went online. I was figuring out stuff for myself, and I was able to access that same menu that you said through Blackboard. If we do that, does it automatically invite the kids, or do we still have to invite them manually in this way?
You're still going to have to invite them manually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, I have a question. This is Anne. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Anne, hi.
Hi. Can I set up my class meetings beforehand? Like, can I go in and set up class for next Tuesday and Thursday and then the following two? So
yes, you can.
Curious? Okay.
Yes, and I'm not going to talk about that right now.
Okay.
But there's going to be video tutorials on how to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about inviting participants now. So we've created our Zoom meeting.
See your screen, because my screen is all jumbled.
Your screen is jumbled?
It's a still picture of you wearing a different outfit with other things overlaid on it.
Mine is also like that.
Oh, let me...
Mine too.
Yep, mine too.
Oh, okay. Well, let me go ahead and I'm going to close this window. And give me a second. I'm going to change my view so that I'm only displaying on one screen. And maybe that'll fix the problem. Okay, so I'm going to make that full screen. You know what? I'm just going to unplug the second monitor. Okay, I've unplugged my second monitor and I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'm going to start sharing again and we'll see what happens. Okay, can people see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nope.
We're back.
No.
I'm back to just the little window of you in a different sweater and a corner of a window.
I
You
can
were
see
good
it,
for
but
a
I can
second,
see
then
it
it reverted.
I don't see anything.
Could you maybe describe what we're supposed to be seeing?
Sure. So if you're all in, you know what? I'm going to stop sharing and we're just going to go through this and I'm going to talk you through it. So you are all in Zoom, and if you wiggle over your Zoom window, you should see a menu down at the bottom that says mute, stop video, invite, manage participants, all of those things, right? Excellent. So now what I want you to do is I want you to click on the invite. And now you should get a pop-up window and you should see something down at the bottom that says copy URL or copy invitation. If everyone is on base with me, excellent. So this is really the only thing you're going to need to invite people once you've started a Zoom meeting. What I suggest is you say copy invitation, okay? So I'll click on copy invitation. And what that's going to do is that's going to copy a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to need. So the next thing that you do is you're going to open up your email and you're going either through Blackboard or a regular email, whoever you want to share that invitation with. If you want to send it to your class in Blackboard, you can send it to your class in Blackboard. And then what you're going to do is you're going to paste that invitation into your email.
Oh, look at
So
that.
are we copying the URL? I'm sorry to interrupt. It's a question just to clarify what you just said. We're copying both the URL and the invitation?
No, either one. The URL will copy only the URL, but that's only going to give somebody the opportunity to use the web interface. If you copy the entire invitation, it's also going to give information about how they can phone in.
Should we copy it now?
Yeah, go ahead. What the hell?
Yeah,
Well,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
copied it and sent it to myself.
Great.
So I did this yesterday, and Blackboard, if you send it through Blackboard, the entire thing, it goes to spam.
So then just copy the URL.
Yeah.
If you send an invitation through Blackboard, you're saying it goes to spam?
It did for me, yes.
Okay, well, that's good to know, but that's the only one that has the option, however, for students to phone in if they're not able to do that.
And you may just want to tell students to check their spam folder. That might be the easiest thing to do. Send them a separate email, say check your spam folder.
Sorry to interrupt here. Other people seem to be seeing something different from what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a picture of Mike Baum against some rather decorative background, and then a picture of whoever is talking.
Correct, because the, well, let me see, I'm going to try to share my screen one more time. But what we're doing is we're kind of going rogue at this point, and people are just following my directions. So if you're in your Zoom window and you hover over, you'll see your menu down at the bottom that says mute, stop video, invite, manage participants. And if you click on invite, that's where we are right now. And we're looking at the copy URL and copy invitation. So either way, you can play with that, copy URL, copy invitation, whatever works for you. But then you'll paste that either into a Blackboard email or into a regular email or something. You'll get that link to your students somehow. And
Excuse
then,
me, Mike. Can I ask one question?
Sure.
So I click on copy invitation. It says pasting, sending to my clipboard, and then nothing appears on the screen.
Perfect. That's what's supposed to happen.
Where do I find the information?
Then you just hit paste into wherever you're going to paste it.
But there's nothing to paste. There's nothing available.
There is. There is.
Oh, okay. Just okay.
There is.
So even though we're not seeing anything, the
Yes.
URL is just
The URL's there. It's there. It's
Okay.
waiting for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mike,
It's stealthy.
so we don't use the email in the upper right-hand corner of the invite box, because when I do that, it doesn't get sent.
I suggest not to do that.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any trouble with FERPA on this stuff?
That's going to be between you and your students. I wouldn't share any information that you're not allowed to share via FERPA regulations. I can't answer those questions.
But how do the other students not see the other people's email? That's what I'm talking about.
Well, you're going to send it through Blackboard.
Blackboard.
Or put their emails in BCC.
Or put their emails in BCC.
That's a good advice.
Yeah. So is everyone comfortable with those two options, copy invitation and copy URL?
Yes.
And pasting it? Excellent. That's how you're going to invite your students. So we've talked a little bit about inviting your students. Now you can also manage your participants. Now you see I have 152 participants. And so you are all very well behaved for 152 participants. And I can click on that.
Mike, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
My wife uses Zoom a lot for work, and she says that you can also get onto meetings by providing people your member ID.
You can, and that was a little over what I was going to talk about today, but it's a cool feature. If you go into your website and you go to your personal settings, you can actually set your member ID to be your name. So mine is, if my room is cwm.zoom.us/my/Mike Bloom. And that's my URL that I can send to anybody. And if I'm online, join me.
Mike?
Okay, yes.
When I set up my individual ID, when I use it as a URL link, it doesn't copy the very last part for some reason.
We can talk about that offline.
Okay.
Okay, so if you notice, I'm going to close this window again. And I'll show you how I got there again. So if you remember, we were looking at how to invite people and then manage participants. Now, let's say you have a lot of students like I have right now. If I click on manage participants, what I can do is I can mute everyone. And now I've just gone ahead, and you should only be able to hear me, and now everyone else is going to have to be quiet for a little while. And then when I want to unmute everyone, I can just click on unmute. And then there's a huge, you can hear all the noise that's going on. Muted everyone again. Now you can unmute yourselves if you want to ask a question. Okay, so let me go on. I've talked about managing participants, and the other thing that you can do is share, although share doesn't seem to be very friendly today with all these participants. So I'm going to close this window here. So now hover over your screen again, and you should see the share. And if I click on share, you'll see a bunch of different desktop things that you can share. So you'll see the desktop one is the one that's illuminated, or desktop. And then there's a whiteboard option that you can click on, right? And if I click on the whiteboard, it'll actually give me a whiteboard. Can people actually see my whiteboard?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So now I can actually just draw on this whiteboard. And not only can I draw on the whiteboard, but I can go to a website if I want when I'm sharing my screen, and I can also annotate that. So I can do whatever I want here, and then I can clear my drawings.
Are you doing that with just your mouse or your
I'm doing it just with my mouse. I'm as skilled as that.
Can you type on the whiteboard?
You can type on the whiteboard. So if you notice, I have a text option, and now I can type here.
Where'd you get the text option?
It's on, if you can see my screen, you may not be able to see my screen because Zoom is funny about that.
I'm seeing your type here. I just don't know where you
Right, so right above that, if you're in the whiteboard screen, as the person who has the whiteboard, you will see another menu above that.
Okay.
That allows you to do that.
So that's for the person who's actually in the whiteboard has access to that. So I can't.
That's correct.
Right, I can't see it because it's your whiteboard.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but
Mike,
there are ways to share the whiteboard, and now somebody else is sharing their whiteboard.
Mike, I'm missing something. How did you get there? I see participants and I see share screen, but I don't see just share.
So you probably have something that says share screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let me not allow people to share their. Okay, I just stopped participant sharing. So yeah, yours might say share screen, mine says share, but it's the same idea.
It's the same thing, okay.
Yeah, so a lot of people are now trying out their share, I can see.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Because you cannot start share screen while the other participant is sharing.
Exactly, exactly. But now you can share other things. So now if I click share, I can also share my desktop. And this is how you're going to share your presentations, right? So if I click, now you probably should all see my desktop, and now hopefully you'll see my inviting participants slide. Right. Okay, so for some reason there was a glitch and that stopped happening. But then you can always just restart it. And so now you see there's my slide, my beautiful slide that was supposed to help you invite the participants, which I showed you already. Now we're up to sharing the screen. You'll hit share, you'll choose this screen, you'll hit share. Here's the annotation that I showed you already. And this is what that bar looks like. For those, I couldn't show you that because I was in the screen and you can't see my screen, my Zoom screen when you're looking at it. So there may be a little confusion there. Just keep that in mind with your students. But now when I share my screen, the menu that I had at the bottom is now going to be at the top. So not only will it be at the top, but then I will have this annotate button added to my menu. And when I click on the annotate button, then it's going to give me all of these different annotate options, mute, mouse, select, text, draw, all of these things that I can then use to mark up anything that I'm on, either a PowerPoint presentation, a website, a whiteboard, any of those things. And then when you want to stop sharing your screen, there's the stop share link up at the top. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes it can be difficult to know how to stop sharing your screen. So it's that red button up at the top, and it may disappear. You'll just have to hover over the top window and it'll reappear. It'll come back.
Hey, Mike, quick question.
Absolutely.
If I'm doing, hopping back and forth between the various sharing and annotating, if I'm recording my Zoom session, all that's getting recorded into one big recording?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
So, and that's what we're up to now. So we're up to the record, and recording, you'll notice that there's the record button down right next to your chat. And you have two options. Now, because you have Zoom Pro, you have record on this computer, and now you have record to the cloud, which is only a feature that's available on Zoom Pro. And when you record to the cloud, it will take you to the actual, it'll record it to the actual website. You don't have to do anything to record it. I mean, you have to hit record, but you don't have to do anything to save it or anything like that. Once you choose record to the cloud, it will save it for you on Zoom, on the Zoom website, and then you can go and review it later. And if we have time later, I'll show you what that looks like.
Can I ask a question? I don't see that on mine. This is Spencer. I see share screen, I see chat, and then there's an ellipses with more, and that's it. But what you're showing us in the picture that you're showing us, like how it goes from chat to record to...
You may be looking on that, you may be looking at that on a smaller screen. What you should do is click on the more, and then you'll probably see record as one of the options.
Yeah, when I click on that, before I interrupted you, and I just did it again, I'm sorry. It says disable video receiving.
Right, so you can only really record one session at a time. If I weren't recording, you'd have the option to record probably.
So are others seeing this? I just wanted to know if mine was messed up, that's all.
I can see mine.
Yeah, I can't see mine.
Okay, we can talk about that offline. Just hold that question for later, and then we can meet up later on.
Does that mean, does that mean that students could potentially be recording this on their own?
They would need permission from you.
Okay, and then do we need to get permission from our students if we're recording a session that has, you know, their images and their words, and we're wanting to upload that later?
That depends on what you plan on doing with it. If you are just going to upload it to Blackboard for use of the other students, you just want to give them a heads up that you're going to be recording it. And there's nothing wrong with that because you're just in a class environment and they'd be there anyway, and you would promise to delete it afterwards.
Okay, perfect. So it's not going to become like the intellectual property of William and Mary or something.
No. I would say that you only post it to your Blackboard site, probably through Panopto, and then you would delete it after you're done. That's my suggestion.
Great, thank you.
Mike.
Yeah.
Question. So when, for example, I want to record, I don't know, student's presentation that he or she is recording himself, I ask for a permission to record, but I'm very unclear still on how they give me this permission, or vice versa.
Well, that depends on what works best for you.
Can we both record the meeting?
That,
technically speaking,
I believe you can, but they would need to get permission.
But it's not clear. I mean, this window pops up. It says request a permission to record, like Bloom or whatever.
Right, exactly.
How do you give me this permission, and how do you enable my recording?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I would have to actually make you a co-host.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's what I would suggest is if your students want it recorded, that you record it and then you share it with the students.
Okay, all right.
Mike. Mike, Hermine Pinson here.
Hey, Hermine.
Hi. Last night I was trying to record on my PowerPoint, and I couldn't do it.
Okay, let's get together and we'll talk about that in the FacetoFace sessions.
Okay. When are the FacetoFace sessions?
They're going to be happening concurrent with all of these, and you should have gotten an email from a newsletter with our newsletter information and what all of the different FacetoFace sessions are, but I'm going to be sending out that information again after this.
Okay, thank you.
I thought I saw an email this morning saying it's an update saying that now face-to-face, because we have a code.
Yeah, face-to-face is virtual, but I'm still going to be looking at you and you're going to be looking at me. It will not be in disease-carrying proximity.
Yeah, it'll be over Zoom, right?
Right, yeah.
Hi, everybody. I have a question about recording.
Yeah.
It seemed like it took a long time for the video to process, so there's a delay when students can access it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they won't be able to access it immediately. This is just for an archive for students who can't watch it later, who can't participate right now, or students who might want to review what they already did later.
Mike, will you be able to kind of at the end of this meeting to show us what the recording in process will look like? How will we get?
Yes. Yeah, I'll show you that. As long as we have some time, just remind me and I'll show you that.
Okay.
Okay, other questions before we continue?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How to invite students to the meeting, because can they Blackboard automatically invite everybody in the class to the meeting?
So on one of the earlier slides, I showed everyone the invite. And let me go over that again.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you'll click invite and then you'll copy that URL and then you'll paste that into a Blackboard email to your students.
And Mike, do they need to download anything or register for anything in order to access this?
No, the first time that they click on a URL, on that URL, if they don't have the software installed, it will prompt them to install the software, and then it'll bring them right into the meeting.
And I know this is maybe a little bit beyond this session, but do you know if this is going to work in China?
We're working on those solutions, and it should work if you've got a virtual network.
Okay.
Yeah, a VPN. At the very least, I don't know what kind of blocks China is putting on Zoom coming from the United States.
Yep.
And that's something that I really suggest that you, as soon as possible, I would probably just ping my students and say, hey, I'm going to be trying out synchronous sessions with Zoom. I'll have a Zoom session open for people to check out their equipment, make sure things are working. You know, Tuesday at 3, Wednesday at whatever time the class would normally meet. You know, and then just have them pop in and say, hi, professor, can you hear me? And you'll be like, yep, I can hear you. Looking forward to seeing you next week. Okay, something like that.
Is there an upper limit on the number of students simultaneously that you?
300.
300, it could handle that many?
I have 160 right now in this session.
Okay.
Mike?
Yes.
Julia, I don't have the breakout rooms icon on my screen. Is anyone else having that problem? I can't seem to locate it.
Yeah. I also.
Okay, we'll make sure that it's there. That's one of the things that you may need to activate in your settings.
Okay.
And we'll cover all of that. This is just day one, and you're gonna have lots of chances to practice with this.
Okay.
And we'll figure all that out. But yes, I'll make sure that that's there for you. And send me an email just to remind me of that. Okay. And then I'll follow up after the session.
Thank you.
Mike,
Thanks.
isn't that something, this is Rachel.
Hi.
Isn't that something that you see when you are the person creating the meeting?
Probably. It's probably only available for me right now, or any co-hosts.
Okay, that answers the question.
Yeah, that's probably correct.
Mike, a quick question. This is Jenny.
Hi.
I had written down that we should copy the invitation, but I think that's wrong. We should copy the URL.
Either one is fine. If you copy the invitation, it will give you things like the phone number, so that if students needed to phone in, they could phone in. So that's going to be a lot more accessible if you copy the whole invitation. But the URL is a lot simpler. It's just the URL.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll show you folks how to get those recordings from the cloud once you've done them. And then the Zoom chat feature, as I suggest, you probably don't want to use this if you're all by yourself, because this is a tough thing to do. So like right now, I can't get to any chat. And I think that I saw, the last I checked, there were like 60 chat messages that I can't access, right? So if I had a partner that was checking these and responding, then that would be great, but don't stress yourself out if you can't do that. You can always use the chat to share files and URLs. Like you can see the first chat thing that I sent was the URL for our Zoom tutorials page. So that's a good way to use the chat if I'm not going to actually check it all the time. And then the breakout rooms.
So Mike, before we go any further.
Yes.
For the beginner users of chat, it's basically a tool to share links and files.
I think so. I think that's the best way to handle it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then the breakout rooms, you know, there's a video that we could watch about the breakout rooms, but I don't necessarily think that we need to watch that right now. You could watch that later. I'll post that somewhere. But the idea is the breakout rooms are, you click on the breakout room button and it says how many breakout rooms do you want, or how many people in each breakout room. And then you select that, and then you click on the button to create the breakout rooms, and then they all go to their breakout rooms. It's actually very seamless. And a little bit of practice with that is probably better than a lot of explanation. So what we might do is just host sessions where people can go in as hosts and practice their breakout rooms before next week. So that's all I have for the presentation. Now I'll take questions unless you first want to see what's happening with those Zoom recordings. So let me show you that first before I forget.
Yeah, let's do this.
So here I am in my Zoom website, and I'll click on sign in here. And remember, it's cwm.zoom.us. And once you go there and you click login, it's just going to bring you to the central authentication service. And I'll click enter. And now you should all see my screen, and you should see all of the options that I have here. So one of the things I was talking about, creating a really cool URL for yourself, is under profile. So if I click on profile, you'll see personal link here in the middle. And you can choose whatever you'd like. If I click customize here, it will allow me to choose my name, my username, something else that I want. And then that's the URL that I have. And I can paste that URL rather than try to find that share URL. If I am not creating meetings and I just want to invite people to my basic room, this is always going to be my address. Is that clear?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so now, meetings. This is how I will set up meetings. So if I click on the meetings link, I can schedule a new meeting. And if I click on schedule a new meeting, I can actually create my meetings for my classes, and I can make those recurring meetings. And that will create a meeting with a unique meeting ID. You can't get there from your personal meeting ID. You can only get there from the unique meeting ID from that meeting. So that's what I did for this meeting. This is not going through my personal meeting ID. If you go to my personal meeting ID right now, to that URL, you'll see an empty room because I'm in this meeting, okay? So that's a really important distinction to make. So let me check the recordings now, and the recordings are going to be right here. It's the fourth button down on the left-hand menu.
Mike, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Hi, this is Anne. So on the meetings, when it says recurring, is it going to understand that my class meets on Tuesday and Thursday? I assume
You'll set that. You'll tell it that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so under recordings, you'll see here are some recordings that I made earlier. Now, the recording that I'm currently doing is actually being recorded under a different host. So I'm not going to find it here. This is the host that we've created. That's the Keep Teaching host. So I'll log into that one. But these are some ones that I've made under my own meeting ID. So just be aware of that. If you're a co-host in a meeting and the meeting's being recorded, it will only be recorded on the host's meeting room unless you record it yourself. But now you'll see that, oh, there are all these files and I can share them. So if I wanted to share the meeting from March 12th, I would click share, and I can share it publicly or only authenticated users, so I can make sure that FERPA regulations are met. I can allow viewers to download it. I can make it password protected, and then I can just copy that link to the clipboard, and the same way as I share the meeting, I can share the recording of the meeting. And that's what I'm going to do on the site here, is I'm going to post these recordings under the webinars and tutorials link, under the Zoom tutorials, where you got to this. I'm sorry, not under the tutorials link, under the webinars and tutorials link, under the schedule of webinars. I'm just going to make this watch recorded session. And then you can click on that and you can actually watch the recorded session. And then you'll be able to join the next session as they go. So that's how you...
Mike?
Yeah.
Quick question about, I was wondering if you would recommend for the where you create your own personal meeting room link.
Yes.
would that be convenient if you wanted to set like office hours, or if a kid just sort of, you know, emails you and says, hey, could I chat with you in 30 minutes? Could you just always steer people to that so you wouldn't have to constantly be setting meetings?
That's what I suggest. And actually, that's the way I use Zoom. I never create a meeting room. I mean, I set them up this time because it's going to be confusing for other people. But, you know, when I'm just doing my own thing and I'm just doing my own Zoom sessions, I don't need multiple meeting rooms. I post they know what the schedule is, and I just post when I'm going to be up, and that's where I am.
Okay, thanks.
But that's your own preference.
Okay.
Mike, a question, Lena. So once you are done with the meeting, right? So you unpress record, right?
You don't have to. It's just, it will do it as soon as you
automatically do it, and it will immediately automatically start processing and will show up under my profile.
Whenever it's ready.
My profile, but under the web, the Zoom.
Under the recordings, yes.
It will. I don't need to do anything. It will just do it by itself.
And here's what I want you to do. If this is important to you, this is the week to practice that.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike, if you questions. One, if you do a synchronous, live session and say 10 of your students can't be there, is there a way to ensure that they've actually watched it later?
Yes. What I would do is I would post that Zoom meeting to Panopto. And Panopto, one of the nice things about Panopto, and you'll be learning about that if you go to the Panopto one, is under the Panopto tools, you can see who watched them and for how long they watched them.
Okay, and my other question was kind of related to Panopto, which is if you just want to record lectures asynchronous, can you just briefly kind of talk about the advantage, like which Zoom versus Panopto, which should you use for that? Is there advantages to doing one over the other?
Yes, the one that you feel most comfortable in, the software that you feel most comfortable using is the one that you should use.
Mike, can we post these as just the recordings just as a web link on Blackboard?
Yeah, you can do that too.
Okay. What's the advantage of posting it on Panopto as opposed to just posting as a web link on Blackboard?
Well, Panopto gives you the kind of bells and whistles of making sure students watch it, so you have those kind of things. It allows you to put tests into the lecture, so if you wanted to give a quiz in the middle to see if students are understanding what you're saying, you could do that. It allows you to do captioning very easily. So there are lots of nice bells and whistles to Panopto that you may not need. And if you don't need them, then that's fine, but some people do. So I would say you play that by ear, by what it is that is important to your class.
Okay, thanks.
Mike, there's a question on the chat from Rebecca, and I'd also like to hear the answer. There's a hand-raising feature.
Yes.
Would you be able to go over that now, or is that something for later?
Yeah, I can go over it now. Basically, what you can do is, that's when you're muting everyone and they're not allowed to unmute themselves. They are allowed to raise their hand, and then they can raise their hand, and then you can choose to unmute them, or you can choose to read the chat window. It's just a way for you to have the culture in your class, and that's what I would do. I would say that's a really important thing that you should think about, is what is my synchronous classroom culture going to be? Am I going to mute everyone? Am I going to allow hand raising? And hand raising is pretty easy if you've muted people. Yeah.
Mike, could you just show a hand raising thing so people could see that, like demonstrate that and get us to do that?
I'm not sure I can raise my own hand, but people are raising their hands. You can just give it a try in your chat window. I don't know if you can see those things pop up, but Leslie Cochrane raised her hand.
There's a poll, a way you can do it in a poll though, that everybody can see, I thought. Maybe not.
I think we're seeing your screen, so that's why.
So do you see them popping up or not? Because I see them popping up.
No.
Right, so you can't see those. If somebody shoots me an email about that, I'll get more details about that, and I'll make sure to post that on the Zoom page. So if the person who is interested in that can just shoot me an email, that's one of the things I'll take care of today.
I can see it, Mike, when I click on participants. So I have both participants in a chat window, and I can see all the participants' hands.
Oh, I see that.
In the participants window.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, now there's a lot of people raising their hands. Okay.
Call on me.
Well, at least everyone is engaged. That's good. And the nice thing about raising the hand also is I think it appears in your transcript of the chat window, so you know when somebody raised their hand. It's kind of pretty because it's going all up and down my screen right now in rows as people are raising their hands. It's really nice. It's like you're doing the wave for me. Okay, other questions that people have? I'll stay on for a little while longer.
Mike, I had a question that probably doesn't apply to most people. In teaching a mathematics course, some of us have been thinking about having an extra camera plugged into our laptop or computer that would show, like, a pad of paper or something that we're writing equations on.
Yes.
Do you have any suggestions for what kind of cameras would work better than others? We're still trying to figure that out.
Well, I mean, you can actually plug a document camera in if you have access to that. And that's something that you may want to contact IT about.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one possibility. The other thing is, you might be able to use a tablet if you're doing that and then plug the tablet in. So all those are options that you probably want to think about with Pablo or with the folks in IT.
Right, but just you don't have any camera recommendations for...
Pablo may have a couple that he's seen that he likes better than others, but no, not that specific question. I haven't had that specific question.
Thanks. I don't want to take everybody's time up. That's fine.
Other questions?
I have a question. Actually mentioned this, and I was blanking. Can you use a PowerPoint inside this?
Yes. So what I'm doing right now is I'm sharing my screen, and you should be able to see my Zoom webpage. So just as easily as sharing my Zoom webpage, I can open up a PowerPoint or I can open up a Word document. So here's my presentation that I just have in Google. I can be seeing my presentation right now.
Okay.
And that's just under share screen. And to share your screen, I'll go back to that part. So if you're looking at your screen, when you hover over it, you should see that share or share screen at the very bottom of your screen. And then what you'll do is you will choose your desktop, or you can choose Whiteboard, or you can choose a PowerPoint that you have open. And then you click share, and then you'll share your screen.
Right.
And then whatever you're showing will appear.
Right.
Mike, I have a question. Can you add the visuals afterwards? Can you do the recording and then go in and put slides in after you have the whole thing recorded?
Yes, if you wanted to do that, what I would suggest is you just do it in PowerPoint. And we have directions for that on our Deliver Lectures site. So if you go to our instructional resilience page, at the very bottom, you'll see recording audio narration for your PowerPoint presentation. And that'll allow you to actually just narrate your PowerPoint, post the PowerPoint to Blackboard, and then the students can click on the audio for each slide and listen to your presentation slide by slide.
So start with PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's definitely an option.
Mike, I tried that last night, and my my audio for some reason does not work.
Maybe you don't have a working microphone, so we could check that out offline. Why don't you get in touch with me and we'll figure out how to get you working and up and running.
Okay, when should I do that? Later on today?
Yeah, you know, we have the face-to-face sessions that we sent to everybody, and if you want, you don't even need to speak to me. You can just join one of those sessions over Zoom, and I'll help you.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Mike?
Yes.
Brian Kradatis, I had a question. Hi. So if you want to share something, when you say share screen, like you want to share a PowerPoint and you're going to talk about images that you're showing, do you already have to have the PowerPoint open and on your computer before you start this, or is there a way to go back and open it up as you're doing it?
So here I am. You can probably see my screen with my website on it. And all I need to do, once I'm sharing in Zoom, all I need to do is go in and find my stuff. So I'll just search for my PowerPoint. And I'll start that up. And then PowerPoint will start up, and you should see my screen starting up. Takes a while for my PowerPoint to come up. And then I just can go to one of my recent PowerPoints. Here's a wife of bath poster that I have that people can look at. And then I can just play the slideshow. So play from the start. And there I go. And that's it.
Mike,
does that answer your question?
I think so, but I'm wondering, you know, can you search, for instance, PowerPoint, can you search files or whatever the common way that most people would keep that stuff for their individual class?
Well, I mean, you could just open up that PowerPoint from your Blackboard site if you had it on Blackboard, and then as long as you're sharing your screen, then the students would see that PowerPoint. So you can store it wherever you want. That doesn't matter.
Mike, question from Anne. Mike?
Okay, yep.
Yeah. For playing audio or video clips, do you know how successful that is? So for example, if I'm showing my screen and I have this lovely little YouTube video or an audio recording that I want to play and then discuss, is that a disaster, or what do you think?
No, it's not a disaster. As a matter of fact, one of the things that you can do is if you click on your microphone icon, if you click on that link, you can actually, on the downward arrow, you can actually edit it so that you click on audio settings and you can record the sound from your machine. And I'll make a tutorial about how to do that as well. Cool. So, and then when you're sharing your screen sound, your computer sound, then anything that's coming from a YouTube video or from a music video, whatever it is, the quality is going to be much better.
Okay, I might take an extra tutorial on that. Thank you.
Great. Other questions?
Mike, can you hear me? This is Mary Lou.
Yes. Hi.
Maybe you already covered this. I apologize. I came in a little late. I was able to go in and pretend like I hosted a meeting. It had no participants, and I captured a video, but I haven't played around with all this other stuff. Is all this other stuff like creating a virtual background, et cetera? Can I go in and just start playing around with this now without?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
Yes.
If you go through the William and Mary Zoom account, does that remove the limit of 40 or 45 minutes?
Yes, and that's the only way I suggest anyone gets into it. And the way that you do that, I'll tell you again, is cwm.zoom.us, and you'll see it here up on my screen. And when you go there, it will ask you to sign in using your William and Mary web conferencing account. And when you log in, it will bring you to Zoom. And then from there, if you want to host a meeting very easily, you'll go up to host a meeting, and then you can choose with video off or with video on, and you'll just do that.
Okay, thanks.
The same thing as when you do it in Blackboard. Once again, if you don't go to cwm.zoom.us, but you use the Blackboard tool for Zoom to embed that into Blackboard, do you still get the that time
If you embed it into Blackboard, you'll still, yes, you'll still log in with your William and Mary account. So you should have, you'll still have the pro version.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Other questions? Yeah.
Like I had one just very quick one, which is maybe it's a registrar question, but you might know. If my classes had been on, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9, can I assume that no other faculty member will be hosting a required thing for my students during that time? It's just
yes,
the regular schedule?
Yes, it's the regular schedule if you're doing synchronous sessions.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Michael, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question. So you're sharing your screen.
Yes.
How can we see you on the screen at the same time?
You can minimize that. So if you hover over it, you can actually click to minimize that window.
Okay, because we're seeing you and we're seeing your screen share, right?
Right. So you can, I mean, it just depends on how you want to look at it. That's a choice that you make. Okay. You can minimize the video feed so you're only seeing the screen feed.
Okay. Can you show us the gallery view so that we can see all the kids at the same time?
And you can change it to gallery view, but each individual person has that power. So you can't enforce that with anybody. That's your own personal view.
Right, where is it?
You should be able to hover up over the top right, I believe, and change the view in your window. And you might only be able to do that if I'm not sharing my screen with you right now.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I'll stop sharing, and then you can probably see that it's speaker view right now for me.
Right.
But then I can go ahead and I can change it to gallery view.
I could change the view even when you were sharing your screen.
Oh, okay,
Seemed to be
great.
working fine for me.
Okay, I think it just is harder to see.
Mike,
Yes.
I have another Zoom meeting that starts in 4 minutes. Is Zoom going to tell me to go to that meeting, or do I have to close you out and then?
We will be sorry to see you go, but then we'll see you next time.
Okay. So I close you, and then the other one is just there waiting for me?
Well, you'll have to follow the link for that other one.
Okay, very good. Very
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll see you later.
Uh-huh.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so next steps for people who want more information, as I said, is to go to our instructional resilience website at instructionalresilience.gms.wm.edu and go ahead and follow the tutorials for Zoom and some of the other things that we have there.
Mike, I have a quick question on Panopto. I keep getting, after like 4, 5, 6 seconds, cannot capture the video.
Cannot caption.
Cannot capture the video. No, just
capture the video.
Yeah, so it's like 30 times it failed. Once it went through, so I made like 11-minute recording. And
I would try something other than Panopto if I were you. You may just have a problem with Panopto. It does take a lot of bandwidth. So you may want to just try recording in Zoom, and you can just open up your own session in Zoom and do a recording that way. I think that Zoom makes a lot lighter work of it, and then you can, once you have that file, you can just post it to Panopto. You don't need to record directly in Panopto. You can also use Screencast-O-Matic or some other resource, and I'll post some of that other stuff up on the website today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Mike, I'm sorry to bug you
No,
one
no,
more
no.
time. Well, because I'm interfacing the Elmo projector and writing on that, and then I captured it in Zoom.
Mhm.
Strangely enough, when I changed over and went to Zoom in the cloud, I could not capture that anymore. I could see the videos, the video. I could write. I don't know why it wasn't capturing, and that's a very specific problem.
So it is a specific problem, and I have a very general answer for you.
Okay.
If there's a specific problem and you can solve it through doing something else, then do it. So if you are able to record locally and it gets you what you want, record locally and then post it to Panopto.
Yeah, okay. And I'm able to actually record right off the Elmo, But it turns it into a format that is AVI, and I can't post it to Blackboard. It's just either too big or something.
Yeah, well, you know what you can try? I don't know if YouTube will take an AVI file, but YouTube, putting it in YouTube and then getting that file out of YouTube as an MP4 will often solve any formatting issues.
Okay, that's what I want, and I want to have it in an MP4. That'd be great. Okay,
That's what I
thank
would
you.
suggest.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Sure.
Great session. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Will you always be in the Sistine?
Mike.
Will you always be in the Sistine Chapel?
You'll have to log in and find out next time.
Michael.
Thank you.
Yes.
Michael, I think we found the solution to study abroad program.
Hey, Mike, this is Camilla.
Hey, Camilla.
Hey, so for some reason I thought this was at 10 o'clock, so I obviously tuned in late.
We'll have another one tomorrow, and I'm going to post this as a recording.
Okay, great. What time is the one tomorrow? And I'll look at this recording today.
It's on that list. I'm not sure exactly what time it is, but it's on our website, and you can just click on the.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Oh, Michael, good morning.
I'll send the information out. The schedule for tomorrow.
Did someone hear me? Hello, Michael.
Hi.
Good
Hi.
morning, Andrea Gaitan here. This is a question regarding the tutorials for students. Are there going to be tutorials in Zoom for students?
So the nice thing about Zoom is most things they don't need tutorials because it's so easy. The other thing is the tutorials that we're preparing for faculty members are all that the students are going to need as well. So you can point them to those tutorials as well. And you know, look through those tutorials and you'll see it really takes everyone through all the steps of hosting a meeting, participating in a meeting. But if you have other ideas that you'd like for students to be aware of, we would love to have that feedback. So please send us anything that you think students will need specifically, and we will customize tutorials for them.
Okay, another question is regarding the closed captioning, because I know there's closed captioning in English, but in Spanish, I was wondering about that.
So here's what I suggest for closed captioning. If it's important and if it's in another language, put it into YouTube.
Okay.
And YouTube will caption it beautifully.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well.
Yeah, compared to any other option.
Compared to on any other. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Stay safe, everyone.
Any other questions? I'll stay online for a little while.
Mike. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Michael. I do have another question.
Uh-huh.
I have one class session that's really long. I'm wondering if it would make sense to record parts of it, then stop the video, then record another part.
Absolutely. That's what we suggest. If there are breaks that are logical breaks in your subject, we suggest that you break it up, offer students some opportunity for formative feedback where they're testing themselves to make sure that they understood the material. And then, you know, and that could be just a simple quiz. It could be, you know, fill out this blog on what you thought about the topic. It could be a quiz that pops up in Panopto even, but some way for them to check their awareness of what it is that you did and then say, now watch the next one. And we suggest the maximum that you're going to want students to watch at one time is probably around 15 minutes.
My class is a discussion-heavy seminar.
Yeah.
Is there a problem with recording a really long class session and posting it?
So far, we haven't seen any limitations like that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mike, Bill Fox, quick question.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just got on Blackboard and I cannot find any place on Blackboard what you referred to about the teaching tools. It's not under my courses. It's not under institutional page or organizations. Where do I look?
I didn't mention anything about teaching tools. That's not.
Oh, on Blackboard, I thought you said that we could look at that and take a look. It's not there.
I'm not sure what teaching tools you're looking for, but we can.
For using Zoom and everything else remote.
Oh, it's not on. No, it's not on Blackboard. That's on instructionalresilience.gs.wm.edu, and it's in that email that I sent out to a bunch of people, but you may not have gotten it. Let me share my screen with you again, and I'll just kind of show you what that looks like.
Okay.
That's a great question. All right, so let me go to my web browser. So now what you'll do is you'll go to our site, which is instructionalresilience.gs.wm.edu. And I think I pasted that link up in the chat window before. If you need it again, let me paste it up there now. All right, I'm gonna just go ahead and paste.
I already put it in there. I'm good.
Oh,
You're good.
okay, thank you. Okay, so that's all you need to do is go to that. If you open up the chat window, you should see that link in there and it'll bring you to the instructional resilience site. This basically tells you everything that I've been telling you in various ways. So this is where you might start. And this gives you the breakdown of all the important aspects of teaching online that we feel are important. It may be different for your courses. Then under webinars and tutorials, if you look at the Zoom tutorials, these are all the tutorials that I've created for everyone that will take them in about a half an hour. And you notice here I've chunked those up because nobody wants to watch it unless it's very specific. So I've really broken these down into 1 minute to 3 minute segments that you can watch over and again to reinforce what you need to know. And lots of these things are also going to be applicable to students. But if there are things that students need to know that you would like to be included in this, I'm happy to include those as well. You can just email me those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Hi, Mike.
And I would suggest that you let them try that out before you make any decisions. See how it works and see how they feel about it. It can be a really positive thing if the stakes are lower. And I would suggest that at least at the beginning, you make everything very low stakes, and you are giving them the opportunity to interact and let them know what the goals are. And that's the most important thing. What are my goals in this? I want students to interact for a specific purpose, and if that's explained to them, I think that's a great opportunity. But I would also make allowances for students who can't get online for any particular reason. So you might have to be flexible about that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, everyone. Well, thank you all for participating. And there's another one coming up at 11 o'clock today. Let's see which one that is. So if you want to take a look, any of our webinars are going to be listed under the webinars and tutorials link on our website. And this gives you a breakdown of what each of them is. And let me minimize my window so I can actually see. And on the right-hand side here, so this was just the getting started with Zoom. At 11 o'clock, we've got something about student engagement. So they're going to be talking more about those kinds of questions actually in the student engagement for remote teaching, how students can participate in groups. So you might want to attend that. And then we'll have Blackboard Basics for Remote Teaching at 1 o'clock. And then the Panopto webinar will be at 3 o'clock. We started to put other content up besides the Zoom tutorials. So if you wanted to get started with Panopto, we've got a couple of the most important tutorials. One of them is provisioning your Blackboard course site, and the other one is recording your lecture in Panopto. And both of those are going to be important if you use that resource. So refer to that. And as I said, I'm right now working on getting a broadcast channel for all faculty members, so I can send out something daily to keep faculty members updated of what's new on the website, what kinds of things that they can participate in, and where they can go to ask questions. So look for that as well.